The sun had just begun to rise over the small village of Green Valley. Golden light spread across endless fields, and the sound of birds filled the crisp morning air. Farmers were already hard at work, guiding their oxen, watering crops, and preparing for another long day. But there was one field that remained silent. Its soil was dry. Weeds had begun to creep across the land. The wooden fence leaned to one side, and the gate hung open as if no one had cared for it in years. This forgotten field belonged to a young man named Ethan. Ethan was 20 years old, full of energy, imagination, and dreams bigger than anyone else in the village. Every evening, he gathered with his friends beneath the old oak tree in the village square. "I'll be the richest farmer this valley has ever seen," he would say confidently. "I'll own hundreds of acres. I'll build the biggest house on the hill. My crops will feed entire towns." His friends listened with amazement. Some admired his confidence. Others secretly laughed. Because everyone knew one thing about Ethan. He loved talking about success. But he hated working for it. Whenever dawn arrived and the other farmers headed into their fields, Ethan remained asleep beneath his warm blanket. His mother would gently knock on his bedroom door. "Ethan," she called softly. "The sun is already up." He turned over. Just 5 more minutes. 5 minutes became an hour. An hour became noon. By the time he finally stepped outside, most people had already finished half their day's work. Still, Ethan smiled. There will always be tomorrow. Those 4 words became his favorite excuse. Tomorrow. Whenever his father asked him to repair the fence. "I'll do it tomorrow." Whenever weeds covered his crops. Tomorrow. Whenever neighbors invited him to help harvest. Tomorrow. Tomorrow became a magical place where every responsibility disappeared. Weeks passed. Then months. The seasons slowly changed. Spring flowers bloomed. Summer heat arrived. Autumn painted the trees with gold. Yet Ethan's field remained almost untouched. Every morning he walked past successful farms. He admired rows of healthy corn reaching toward the sky. He watched fruit trees bending beneath heavy harvests. He saw smiling families loading baskets filled with fresh vegetables. Instead of feeling inspired, he felt jealous. "Some people are just lucky," he whispered. "They were born into success." Deep inside, however, he knew the truth. Luck wasn't growing those crops. Hard work was. But admitting that meant accepting responsibility. And responsibility was something Ethan always postponed. One afternoon he wandered into the village marketplace. Merchants shouted cheerful greetings. Children laughed as they chased one another. Fresh bread filled the air with its comforting smell. At the center of the market stood an elderly farmer named Mr. Thomas. His vegetables were famous throughout the region. People waited patiently to buy from him. Ethan stared at the long line. "If I had land like yours," Ethan said proudly, "I'd earn twice as much." Mr. Thomas looked up and smiled kindly. "You already have land." Ethan shrugged. "My field isn't ready yet." "When will it be ready?" "Soon." "How soon?" Ethan hesitated. "Tomorrow." The old farmer didn't laugh. Instead, he simply nodded. "I've heard that word many times." Ethan smiled confidently. "I just need the perfect moment." Mr. Thomas carefully placed vegetables into a customer's basket before replying. "My boy. The perfect moment is like a rainbow. It always seems close. But every step you take, it moves farther away." Ethan forced a smile. He didn't like advice. Especially when it sounded true. He thanked the old man politely and walked away. Behind him, Mr. Thomas quietly watched until Ethan disappeared down the dusty road. That evening dark clouds gathered above the valley. Heavy rain poured throughout the night. Lightning flashed across the sky. Thunder echoed between the hills. The next morning, every farmer rushed outside. Rain meant opportunity. The soil was soft. Perfect for planting. Men and women hurried into their fields before sunrise. Only one house remained quiet. Ethan slept peacefully. Hours later he stretched lazily and stepped outside. The rain had stopped. The rich soil was already drying beneath the sun. Farmers smiled as they planted fresh seeds. Ethan looked around. "I missed today." He shrugged. "I'll start tomorrow." Again. Tomorrow. Little did he know. Every tomorrow was quietly stealing something he could never recover. Time. Days continued slipping away like sand through open fingers. Then one evening, as the sky glowed orange with the setting sun, a stranger entered the village. He rode an old horse covered in dust from distant roads. His silver beard reached almost to his chest. His eyes held the calm wisdom of someone who had witnessed countless lives rise and fall. Children stopped playing. Adults paused their conversations. Everyone recognized him. It was Samuel, the wandering elder. For years he had traveled from village to village, helping people solve problems that no one else could understand. Some called him a teacher. Others believed he was simply an old traveler. But everyone respected him. Samuel slowly walked through the village until he stopped beside Ethan's neglected field. He looked at the dry earth. The weeds. The broken fence. Then he smiled. Not because he was amused. But because he had seen this story before. Many times. He quietly asked a nearby child. "Who owns this land?" "Ethan." "Does he farm it?" The child laughed. "He talks about farming." Samuel nodded thoughtfully. Talking and doing are two very different seeds. At that exact moment, Ethan appeared, humming happily as if nothing in the world was wrong. He noticed the old traveler studying his field. But only for a second. "It's just temporary," Ethan explained. "I'm about to begin." Samuel turned toward him. "Really?" "Yes." "When?" Ethan smiled confidently. "Tomorrow." The old man's eyes narrowed ever so slightly. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Samuel slowly reached into his weathered leather bag. He pulled out a small wooden box. Inside rested two tiny seeds unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. One shimmered with a soft golden glow. The other was dark as charcoal. Samuel closed the box and looked directly into Ethan's eyes. "These," he said quietly, "will decide the rest of your life." Ethan stared at the small wooden box in Samuel's wrinkled hands. The two seeds looked ordinary at first glance, yet something about them felt different. The golden seed seemed to glow softly in the evening light, while the dark seed appeared to absorb every ray of sunshine around it. "What are they?" Ethan asked, unable to take his eyes off them. Samuel smiled. "One is the seed of ambition." He gently pointed to the golden seed. "The other is the seed of laziness." His finger moved to the dark one. Ethan laughed. "Seeds of ambition and laziness. That's impossible." Samuel closed the box. Many things seem impossible until life proves them true. The villagers had quietly gathered around them. No one spoke. They knew Samuel never wasted words. He handed the wooden box to Ethan. "Plant them at opposite ends of your field tomorrow morning." Ethan grinned. "Tomorrow morning?" "Of course." Samuel didn't smile. But listen carefully. His voice grew serious. The seed of ambition needs your attention every single day. Water it. Protect it. Pull away the weeds around it. If you ignore it, it will die. He paused. The seed of laziness needs nothing. Ethan frowned. Nothing. Samuel nodded. It grows by itself. The villagers exchanged nervous glances. The more you ignore your work, the stronger it becomes. Ethan chuck. Cled. It sounds like a fairy tale. Samuel leaned closer. No. It sounds like your future. That night Ethan couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious seeds. He placed the wooden box beside his bed. I'll plant them first thing tomorrow. Then he blew out the candle and fell asleep. The next morning, the rooster crowed. The sun rose. Farmers filled the roads with carts and tools. Ethan opened one eye. I'm still tired. He rolled over. I'll do it after breakfast. After breakfast became after lunch. After lunch became after a short nap. By evening, the seeds were still inside the box. No problem, Ethan whispered. I'll definitely plant them tomorrow. Days passed. Then another week. Finally, feeling slightly guilty, Ethan hurried into his field. He planted both seeds exactly as Samuel had instructed. There, he said proudly. Done. He poured a little water over each one. I'll come back tomorrow. Then he walked away. The following morning his friends invited him fishing. Your seeds can wait one day, they said. They're only seeds. Ethan agreed. The next day there was a festival in the neighboring village. Another excuse. Then rain. Then tiredness. Then visitors. Every day offered a brand new reason not to return. Each excuse sounded perfectly reasonable. Just one day. Just one more tomorrow. Weeks slipped away. One afternoon Ethan suddenly remembered the seeds. Oh no. He grabbed a bucket of water and sprinted toward his field. What he found stopped him in his tracks. The golden seed had barely grown. Its tiny leaves were yellow and drooping toward the ground. It looked weak. As if it had been waiting for someone who never came. But the dark seed. It had become a monster. Thick weeds stretched in every direction. Their roots twisted through the soil. Sharp vines wrapped around nearby plants. The weeds had spread across almost half the field. Ethan couldn't believe his eyes. How is this possible? He pulled at one of the weeds. It wouldn't budge. He pulled harder. Nothing. The roots held firm beneath the earth. For the first time, fear crept into his heart. That evening he searched desperately for Samuel. The old traveler was preparing to leave the village. You tricked me. Ethan shouted. The lazy seed is destroying my land. Samuel calmly looked toward the field. No. You destroyed it. I forgot only for a little while. Samuel shook his head. Laziness never asks how long you were absent. It only asks whether you showed up. Ethan lowered his head. I'll fix it. Samuel smiled gently. Good. When? Ethan opened his mouth. The familiar word rose to his lips. Tomorrow. But before he could say it, he stopped. For the first time in years. The word felt heavy. Empty. Dangerous. Samuel noticed the silence. You're beginning to understand. Then the old man climbed onto his horse. Before leaving, he said one final sentence. The greatest battles are never fought against weeds. They are fought against the excuses growing inside us. With that, he rode away. Ethan watched until the old man disappeared beyond the hills. As darkness covered the valley, Ethan stood alone in his neglected field. The dying golden seed trembled in the wind. The weeds seemed to grow even taller in the moonlight. For the first time in his life, Ethan realized something terrifying. His greatest enemy had never been bad luck. It had never been poverty. It had never been a lack of opportunity. His greatest enemy was the voice inside him that always whispered, "You can do it tomorrow." He clenched his fists. His eyes filled with determination. Then, before the sun had even risen the next morning, Ethan picked up a shovel. He stepped into the field. And he declared, "Not tomorrow. Today."